Welcome again, everyone, to our webinar about what's new in Creo 12. I'm Dries de Sager, and together with my technical colleague, Stefan Vlaming, we will host this webinar about the new functionalities in the latest version of Creo. But before we dive in, I want to explain you a little bit more about the go-to environment. So, like you all can see in your screen, there's a question box at the right. So you can unfold it by clicking on the question mark. If you have any questions during the webinar, feel free to put them into the box. And at the end of the session, we will see how much time's left and probably answer some of the questions. If your question wasn't answered during the webinar, we will come back to you afterwards. So what are we going to see today? We will learn from Stefan first of all, something about Creo Plus, and then some more general features about productivity and usability, and then some more specific topics such as design for composites, simulation-driven design, model-based definition, and also design for manufacturing. And we're going to end with some Q&A. So that's it from my side. Stefan, please go ahead.
So thank you for the introduction. Today we're going to have a look at Creo 12, what is new in there. As always, PTC shows, which every new release, they also show a new product they put into view. And we've seen this models also on the advanced assembly webinar that we did a few months back. So this nice catamaran of a French builder, interesting product, especially for large assemblies and things like that. I'm going to start with a small introduction about the release strategy and what has PTC changed in that. So as of Creo 12 in last year, Q3, they already started with Creo 12, but only for Creo Plus. So what they done now is they released 4 versions already, for smaller versions which needs smaller testing and easier follow-up. And the third version or the fourth version, like the on-premise version, like you see below, is the one that is now being released. So this is going on for the Creo 13 already, and Creo 13 is already on SaaS and on the Creo Plus side already released. With some minor changes, but by that they do that step by step, and the testing can be done earlier. So that's also having some impact on our release strategy for next year. We'll see that. On the other hand, what is Creo Plus compared to Creo, the standard Creo, what we today most of us are still using? In basic, it is the same software. It's also installed locally, but delivering, implementing it, installing it is done a little bit different. So it's downloaded from the cloud. The config is running in the cloud. Settings are running in the cloud, and the licenses are also running in the cloud. So as it is of today. What is a cool function in there? That you have a collaboration function. So on an assembly on a part, you can work with multiple persons to that same part, same assembly, and do changes. So they created a new structure, so you see what is somebody else makes. You can make branches, you make split products up, and then bring things back together so that you work together on an assembly, but you directly see what your colleagues are doing. So this is cool. And of course, Creo Plus is compatible with Windchill and other software that is already existing. Now, this is a little bit what we hear now from PTC. This is a first step. Normally, the end of this year, beginning next year, they will release a full Creo cloud, which runs fully in the cloud. So the only thing that you need then is a screen, a mouse, and a good internet connection, and you can do whatever you want. So this is coming. Creo Plus is already there. So if you are interested, please contact us. Now, what is new in Creo itself? Let's have a quick look through different modules, starting from the basic, what we all use every day, like a sketcher. This is the very, very basic. They added a midpoint line tool. So under the line, you can open it up, and then you have on the latest one, midpoint line. That was already possible to create it in a second step, but okay. They also enriched the palette. They added some racetracks with it, some other things as well. Remember that you very quickly, this is standard Creo functionality, can add sketches to this. So this is already there. It doesn't change in there. Yeah. And also the red, yellow, red indicators, and these are now standard throughout Creo. So also in the sketcher, it was not the case before. It's a detail, but they moving to similar or the same UI everywhere. This one is a very cool one. They added feature presets. It is when you, for instance, create a whole M8 through thread, you can save that setting and reuse it in a later step. So you don't have to redo that every time. That makes it a little bit faster. You can just select it and you can save as many as you want. You also have the possibility, if you make, for instance, an extrude or revolve, you can save the sketch and reuse the sketch. Today it's only working on whole, extrude, revolve, round, chamfer, and curve from equation. The other ones are following later on. We'll see which one they pick first, but this was cool. Yeah. Let's have a look at a little video I have made of that. So for instance, that whole feature, you can indeed click something yourself. And now on the left, you can go to presets and you choose which one you want to use. They just make a list of that, of what is saved in this instance. Of course, you can give the naming yourself. So you have that choice of giving a good name. Now, you can apply it multiple times. And of course, this is also powerful. You can very quickly copy it if you want those settings again. You see also a recent used. So what you used in this part, I think they remember 3 or 4 items. So that is also quickly to do. Yeah. Also in the curve from equation, what I find very powerful here, that he saves also the equation. So instead of noting that down somewhere or putting it in a document, you can now save it and reuse it. Also, you can import or export those settings, what you made, and then open them later on. So you can have a general location on, if you work with multiple colleagues on one place. That's also a cool method. Yeah. So saves you a lot of time, I guess, and is interesting to do. Now, the last what we do here is for a round feature. What is also a possibility to set one or other one as a default. So that when you create a new one, he will typically start with that default what you set. Maybe for this part, this is for this session, and so this Creo that is open. So this is also a handy one. Yeah. And of course, you can work with, like we said, sketches also. And now we're quickly changing that sketch. If you go to a preset, you can enter the value, save it, and also save the sketch. So the next time you'll use it, you'll see the same sketch. You just have to enter the references. Here it's not interested to, of not interesting to use that as a default, because every extrude that you make, otherwise you have to start with deleting the geometry that you don't want. And then last thing, I guess it just passed a little bit. You can also on the whole feature right click and you see the presets already. So instead of going first into your whole feature and then choosing a preset, right click on the whole feature and you can directly go into, or it goes directly into the presets. So next one, performance advisor of performance reporting. It was existing already. I did not see a lot of people use it. Now they made it a little bit more a newer interface and a little bit more easier to see. So what is it? It's when you're opening a part and you have some difficulty or it takes a lot of time to open it, that you can see why that is. Right? So you see in the list here every item, how much time he needs to load that assembly or that sub-assembly and that part. And so you have an idea what are long lead times. That's one. And on the other hand, you also have a good overview of the number of components and unique models, because that's also sometimes a question that people have. But also for that assembly quality and speed of loading, how many suppressed components that you have, how many packaged items, mechanism bodies, and so things like that you can also see as well. So very fast, very easy, easy to look for and to open to have an idea of how my assembly loads. New display for tongue integes. That was a functionality that was already present. You could, but you have to go in settings to do that and to hide those tangential lines. Now it's just a toggle button that they added to the ribbon. So a little bit easier, but a functionality that was already present. This one is two interesting things. The first is new highlight. So if you have a new feature, it will highlight with a little triangle or a yellow color, like you choose. We'll see it in a moment in the video as well. But this one is also an interesting. So we have a little bit more info on in the ribbon, but also in the dashboard when you are in your feature. So a little bit more information of what is a swap lens, but also what are if I hover over trajectories, what can I do with it, what I have to set up, a little bit more visual again. And yeah, okay, sorry. There's another slide in between and we'll see that in a moment. I was looking for the video. Capture and reuse visibility states. I think it's interesting. It's a little getting the flow, how it works. So what we often do is start hiding parts, but we see then that it's in different sub-assemblies and it's a little bit harder to make them visible again. And now you can capture your visibility up front. So first you click, I want to capture this state, what I'm having now, and then you start hiding, and then you can toggle back and forth. You can still hide some more parts, but you can still toggle back to the original state that you have saved. And so you create a snapshot of it, and he does then show it. So that's new highlight and ribbon nodes, a little bit to few things together. And you can have it as a triangle or a marker. It's when you open in Creo, nothing open yet, you can have that choice. And now you see the little blue triangles added to it. The same, but we can change it. So under our window settings, I will change it here to marker. And now it's a yellow highlight. So you see what is happening, what is new features, and you can investigate. Of course, on the end, you can deselect them, that they don't need to be highlighted anymore, because yeah, you already work in the meantime, or know what in the meantime what it does. You see now that pop-up, a little bit bigger, a little bit more text with it as well. But not only in the ribbon, but also in the dashboard, where you see where I hover over trajectories, for instance, and I see what a trajectory can be or can be done. That visibility. So first of all, I take a capture. You see this is the current captured state. So I clicked on it, and now I can start hiding parts that I don't want to see anymore. And now very quickly I can toggle my visibility going back and forth, and I see the state that it's in, and also in that small preview window. So if I'm adding now more parts into my hide, I can go back way faster than before, and very easily to toggle that view. The only thing that is a little bit, you have to remember to hide, to capture that position and that state where you want to start from the beginning, or of course go back. Enclosed volume is already, it's new since Creo 11. They improved it a little bit. So they added parameters to it, where you can see the width, length, and height automatically. So that's a cool one. They have also a possibility to select a feature or a surface or something to create the orientation of our box between this is the smallest size, this is the with a surface selected, the oriented to that surface, and that's one as well. But this one is a very interesting one. It's now possible to make that enclosed volume with the geometry, even if it's an empty part. So together with the move to footer, it's very interesting to use that in a template part where it is already there. And because it's in the footer, it moves backwards. If you add features, it automatically will adapt your the volume, but also the parameters, which you can then send to other downstream, or for packaging or for price calculation. It's often used. That's what is interesting. Yeah. So you have an aligned, and an optimized. Optimized is the smallest possible shape due to with the part that we have. And aligned is aligned to a coordinate system or to a surface. That's what we the box orientation you can change depending on a surface, like we like shown here. So that's also sometimes what you want, because you want to put it into in a box or into a container like that. And of course, you can then also have a view on the parameters. He creates a direction and a coordinate system based on that. Let's dive a little bit into surfacing. It's a small one. In the past, when I wanted to make an offset of that brown surface and or a selection of a kilt, you also first have to make a copy of certain pieces of a kilt, and now you can do that in one go. So the offsets feature can select a part of a kilt and not a whole kilt anymore, like in the past, which is also made easy because we use that in sheet metal. We'll see that later on. In sheet metal, from a body, you can make an offset into a thickness of certain surfaces and not all in one go. Made a little bit easier. This I find a very interesting one. For you guys who are familiar with surfacing, you know that if you create a surface with multiple curves or based on multiple curves, and that you have also those connection lines. Those connection lines can be interesting, but can be hard to work with downstream. Sometimes you have some very little lines on a radius that annoy you or that limit the feature in building. So what we do now is we make an approximate patch, a little bit like an approximate curve. So you kind of copy the curve into one surface without those internal lines, which makes it much more stable, much faster, of course, also to do and to work with. So you see he creates a copy. You have a function here on the left of replace or copy and trim or copy untrimmed, and depending on what you want to do, you want to make a copy or you want to replace a surface, untrimmed makes it as big as he needs it. You can add multiple surfaces or multiple surfaces into that one quilt. And you can also control the connection to the already existing connecting surfaces, and that it's maybe G0 or G1, tangency or free. And that's a difference that we have. Right? So very cool, very easy. We're going to show here that connection a little bit. So if we start selecting multiple surfaces, he will add it to it. Let's add some more. And then on the end, we can, of course, connect that position, and we have a possibility to use it as the function neighbors. So all connect to the surface that are neighbors to it, or connect to references that I'm possible to select. And that's a choice that I have. Oh. So that's the first step that we do. And the second step, the second test is changing that to the references. And then he looks to that outside as well to maybe change that surface. So this is, on the other hand, a little disadvantage. He will change, or Creo will change that surface a little bit in some cases. Not big. It's like with the curve, it's the same effect. If you have a curvature continuous, he will change the curve or the surface a little bit. What we're doing now here, it's also possible to open, when you have a hole in it somewhere, that you use a function to close that internal edges and exclude them edges, so he closes that surface up. Because he makes an approximate shape, it's possible to very quickly and easy do that. Again, another one in style. You see the logos, they call that glimpse, and the glimpse they also changed everywhere. And so this was the last step that they had to adopt them, and now they're looking the same throughout Creo to make it again a little bit more uniform. A small one, but interesting. Enhance groove through points. It's you have to compare what it was before. So if you create a point through curves, he typically created that line horizontal to start with. Then you add a tangency to one side, and you'll see that that side on the other side kind of remained fixed. The position was free, so I'm not added a tangent to it, but it did not follow real time. So they changed that for the good as well. Which is now very easy to adapt, and also they added a stretch factor to it. Here you see again, that's the Creo 11 model that is shown now. So if we add a curve through points, this is kind of unchanged, but if we now add a curvature or a tangent on one side, you see that the other side also adapts. Not only now, but also when I'm changing my curve, it will automatically, or my basic lines where it's built on, he will adapted as well. Now I have that drag value if I want to use that or not. You're kind of course, stretching your form to that, which makes sense. But you see both of them, and that is not changed, will calculate based on the new shape as well. The same is possible, of course, for a curve that you place on a surface, on an existing guild or surface. You see that it's now curved because the surface is already curved. You have the same effect and the same possibility to work with that stretch value. So that made it way more accessible. The same goes for the surface. The surface that we done of the curve that we've seen before, this is the same effect because of course the surface that he creates is based on a curve through those endpoints, and then he creates a surface between it. It's the same issue that they removed, so between Creo 11 and Creo 12. This is also an interesting one. We all had that we open an assembly, an imported assembly from step file, and we want to do that into one part instead of all the individual parts. And when you click in the past, when you click on part, he would put everything in the wrong position. So he put everything on the default coordinate system on top of each other, which does not represent my assembly, which does not work. So this is something that they solve now. You have now two options, or you click on part, which that step assembly file that you are importing. He will make a part, and every sub part that there's in there, he transforms to a body. So you can still select your individual parts and do whatever you want with that. But everything is into one part, which for like purchasing parts, this is only one part that you have to manage, and do not have that sub parts in there. And of course, if you click on assembly, it's the same like before. So he will make an assembly of that step file. Made it way easier and easier to use. Multi-body, getting more and more traction, more and more people start using it. Very powerful now. They added now a function there where you can just have bodies saved in one go into an assembly. So there's a new save as assembly for parts that already have multi-bodies in there, and you can convert it. You get the same menu a little bit like you see on a rename from an assembly, where you can have the common name changed or the file name changed all in one or one by one, and depending on what you want. The same functionality is, of course, very handy also for sheet metal. And the idea that we start a default part, and that's that gray shape. It's below here, and we create one shape in one part, and then we select surfaces with that offset that we've seen before. We select surfaces with a thickness, so every part, individual sheet metal part, has its own properties, has its own thickness, can have the thickness to in or outer side, where you can very quickly make that connection through those parts. And on the end, of course, you need to export it to a solid, an assembly. That's the power. Let's have a look as well at that first step. So what we done here is we made the shape of that cover in one body, and then we started cutting it up into 3 or 4 different parts at the bottom as well, which makes it more consistent in that shape. So if I'm changing the shape here, it will change the roll. And now I can save that out. So I have multiple bodies which I can save to one part. Even if you use mirror parts or things like that, this is all possible. On the bottom, you can see I have a possibility to then file name generation, where you can do what you want to it. You have the choice: do you want hidden bodies included in it or not? So things like that. Work with a template, use default templates, and multiple possibilities in there. So they include what you want in there as well, parameters, materials. Everybody you can give an individual material, of course, and how you make the link. So this is also an important one. The link is created via a copy geometry feature, but you don't need advanced assembly to do that. So that's also cool. So he makes an external copy geometry to that part with the bodies. We just created here. You see the body that is selected in it. And you can have a manual update with notification in this case, or you can break the link if you want. That's a little bit how you want to go with it. Yeah. This means also if I'm changing my part, so they now with notification, if I'm changing my default part, my skeleton kind of, that you'll see that he will calculate here as well. So it's linked to each other. Yeah. The same as with a sheet metal part. The function that we shown here is in a skeleton part itself. It is not necessary. It can be done into a general part as well that you use or give the name skeleton. Is the same way that we've done here. Again, we create an assembly with those individual parts in it. And now it's also possible to add my skeleton to my sub parts so that I have them in one assembly together. That's an option if you want or not. And of course, like I said before, every sheet metal body that's now converted into a part has its own properties, has its own flat states, things like that is the same. And you can still do here individual cutouts or openings or whatever you want to do. That's not changed. And of course, also reorder or something. It doesn't need to be into that assembly because the link is created via copy geometry and is external. Another one, a small one, joint walls. I don't see it used that much, but it's an interesting. What is the limitation in the past that if you make a joint, that is the two sheet metal surfaces need to intersect already, and then he can make a joint. Now they changed that, it don't need to be anymore. And you also have the possibility to follow the boundary edges. And so along boundary edge means he's following this edge here and he goes up to that. Or I will normal to selected edge. So normal to my red line, which we see here, this is a normal, this is along edge, where you can change what you want to do and see a difference effect. Or make that cutout in a second stage, and that's also a possibility. Fully dependent mirror. That was already possible in sheet metal, but sometimes in some cases, especially when you make a connection on the end or do something on this edge and this edge does not need to be copied or not, he made a kind of, so he made a mirror, but it was not associative anymore. So they solved that as well, and now it is associative, and it's also a new way of selecting. So very cool one as well. You have a little bit more control in there. Welding. We can now export all weld information. So from a whole bunch of weld types, also groove and butt welds, can we export into an XML file, which is a kind of a standard from an ISO standard, where we can load that up into production machines, where he just can follow the trajectory that we create here. Because he starts with, you see the text here a little bit, this is the weld that we're doing with some parameters, but also start point, end point on the XAZ. So you can push that into a robot, weld robot, and weld that automatically. Very cool. We had some questions up front, IB4, Creo 12 on customers who want to do that. So this is interesting. Have a little look at design for composites. A new way of creating my rosettes. So for people that never worked with composites, it's a way of building layer by layer onto a part to create your composites. So if you have cylindrical parts, it's interesting to change your rosette in that type, because then it unfolds or it works better. This is also improved. So in the end, you want to have that form and that layout of different layers. And you see here, this is built up by different layers. And you want to have a solid part of that. In the past, it was quasi or very hard to see that where are thick areas and where not. So because now we're building, every layer that we build has its own thickness, has its own cure thickness, because that's also a difference. Cure thickness and placement thickness, he creates an exact solid form of that. Now also including the little drop-offs that you have. So you have sometimes little openings in there as well, which typically will fill with resin, but you can see that in detail. So very cool. Transitions, maybe a better view on what transitions are. Now you can move them individually if you want to do that. I will just skip to the next slide. What is a transition? Because we want to make multiple layers here and maybe go to 1 or 2, I don't know. You don't want all layers to stop at the same position, because one, you make a big drop off, but it's bad for strength in your part. And so I can very quickly say, state to my part, I want a transition in that every layer needs to be 5 millimeters longer than the one above. And so you have a nice kind of steps that you're creating down. It go also for multiple edges as well, and to do that. You have now also an export box where I can export my multiple layers into or one part, or export each ply to a separate file, or export them to the same file with a nesting that not much parts overlap. I can also export my DXF remembering the roll direction, because some materials have a certain direction, other ones don't. And so this is also a cool one to have. And the latest item about composites is it's now also possible to work with a manufacturing part. So this is the part that the engineer kind of made, and the engineer tried his best, but maybe he did not have the time to build up the splits, or how it's really must be made. Right? It's the same like we do in a manufacturing part and in turning or a milling part. We have the part that the engineer made, and then where the trajectories and the process of building a part is made is in a linked part with emergent inheritance. That's the same what we do here. Now on that line, you see a split. We're making a split, and then the stagger and the overlap, where you see here multiple lines adding multiple surfaces, which is added to it. We'll do that again. So an overlap and a stagger, so that that goes step by step downwards into different plies. So very interesting and new module, very powerful to use, especially now with this addition to it also. And of course, we have to, on the end, test if every draping, if every fabric with its own specifications can be folded into the mold. That's what we've done here. And on the end, we can, of course, compare. There will be a little difference between the two parts, of course, because one is made a little bit different to what the engineer has done. Simulation. As you know, ANSYS and PTC have a partnership, so we see more and more ANSYS simulation technology coming into Creo, which is interesting. As you know, ANSYS is way more powerful than that Creo ever had functionality for. So we have there also three different types in. So this is the Creo ANSYS simulation. This is the basic simulation that we can do. What they added now is, of course, the new 2025 solver, but also the possibility to add fasteners and preloads. Right? So instead of creating your fastener fully detailed and then have the calculation run through that, and we can now idealize our fastener instead of mounting it, and he understands that. So this is also a cool one to work with. Creo Simulation Live, and so we have the basic simulation in ANSYS or in Creo, that's your choice. What is Simulation Live is that you can very quickly set up an analysis, and if you have a lot of iterations, you see a direct effect of what you're doing. So for instance, here, if I have that flange and I'm start changing that thickness, I don't have to do anything 1 second. So I have to set up my analysis first, of course. And if I then start changing my part and changing that thickness, I will see 1 or 2 seconds after I commit my feature or commit my change, I see the effect on my part. So very quickly, a little bit less accurate, but very quickly I see the effect on a part that I do. If I add holes to a part, to a structure, I see that directly. Again, what they added here is fasteners and preloads, bearing loads, because that behaves a little bit different, of course. And also structure and fluids results we can is now a little bit improved, so you see what is happening to a part. And then our third option, generative design, is a way of I explain it as inverting simulate. With typical simulate, we check if our part is strong enough to do something. Here we invert it. I will ask the system to create a part for me that is strong enough based on the strength and the materials and whatever that I have entered. So it's the inverted. Now they added in generative design also thermal optimization, which is also interesting. This is a brake disc where you see the heat going into my center part and how fast that is and how much material do I need there to do that. So very cool as well. Model-based definition. A small improvement, but can have a big impact. If you added some dimensions already to one part, you can now very quickly copy them from your source model to your target model. You can start copying multiple references and multiple dimensions to it, because of course you spend a lot of time into that part. Of course, they have to be linked in some kind. So it can be a family table or something, things like that. You have to have the same geometry on both parts, which makes sense. Then we have, of course, GD&T Advisor, where is also improved. This is an out-of-the-box tool which helps you building GD&Ts on a correct way. So you go to your process like you're measuring a part. You start with, this is my first surface. I put my part on the surface, and then I start measuring the flatness of it, and then I'm going further and further into that item. Now they improved multiple and disjoint surfaces, like you see those green surfaces here highlighted. And so yeah, you can quickly build that. In the past, that was sometimes Creo saw that as one surface, which is it's not, but it's built like that, and then the cutout is made later on. The same goes for patterns, that he understands that it's not one, but multiple ones, and combining that dimension. So what is powerful, if I'm selecting this dimension, that you will see that he highlights the holes. If I'm selecting this dimension, you will see that he highlights those three surfaces, which makes more sense than in the past. Design for manufacturing. Our last item, a little bit less used. This in mold cavity, a little bit less used as very detailed functionality already. What is we see now a trend is that more and more molds gets printed instead of machined, because our shapes get more complex and difficult. It's easier to print not the whole mold maybe, but maybe an insert that you can build that. And printing gives, of course, more advantages, that I don't have to drill my cool lines, but I can print them as well, which I can very close follow my geometry. And therefore they made a new feature. Like I said, Creo, or said before, Creo is focusing on printing, yes, but especially metal printing and not general plastic printing. This is way is cheaper to build, and if my product is not correct, okay, I print a new one, the prices are okay. If you do the same in metal, and if it's basic metal, maybe, but if it's an expensive metal or a stainless steel thing, it gets more and more expensive. Yeah, you see here now they make that cooling line a teardrop shape, because then I don't have to build structures, support structures in there to make it. This is another example of they want a spiral on the outside. So you start creating that spiral based on what you do, based on your part with some dimensions in it. And you'll see here again, creates a spiral where I can make also a link to my inlet and offset. So very fast, very quick, I can build that canal like I want it to be. Oh, very cool feature. And then subtractive design, undercut machining is added to it. So if you have a little tool that cuts on the inside, this is now also possible. And a lot of other new functions that he follows, deburring, different corners of rounds that he follows, constant load setting. And so if my material is low in the middle or low in the middle and high in the end, and that he changes the load settings and the thickness is very cool functions there as well. Additive design. So again, our printing. When we create some lattices, it's again the same question. yes, a lot of printing, plastic printing programs can add those lattices itself, but we don't have a control there on the strength of our part. And that's what we want. For metal, for complex parts, we want that strength to be tested before we start printing, because the material that we print in is very expensive, right? So that's why we make the structures, those lattice structures in Creo. And now we have also a function to trim out those outer dots. In the past, we could remove that manually by cutting it away. That's one thing. But also that structures can be based on a simulation. So we made a simulation here. I need a lot of strength on the outside. In the middle, I don't have any strength needed. And you'll see we can automatically change the structures on the inside in thickness, in volume, so that we have a lighter part. Because in the past, what we would do is make everything the thickest one that we need. Now we can make it a little bit more varied. And then our last item, windshield interaction. So on both sides, on windshield side, I have now a possibility to open subsets. So if you save the simplified rep, you can click it and open the subset directly in Creo, instead of opening it first in Creo and then creating your subsets, or then selecting your subset, which is not only powerful for that, which is a big impact for your load time. So because maybe I'm selecting an assembly which originally consists of, I don't know, 100 parts. If my simplified rep says it was only 10, with that open subset, he will only load that 10 parts into my workspace and only open that 10 parts into Creo. The other parts, if I change on my simplified representation, he will add it to it in a later stage. That's one. Also the notification to synchronize, and now you'll see a pop-up in Creo that there have been things updated on the common space, and you need to apply those to your current project. And so this is also a cool one, that you have that pop-up on the Creo site.